Previously, the Li family stepped onto the path of cultivation, and Li Chejing became their first true cultivator. Now tragedy strikes without warning, blood debts are repaid, and 2 years later, a powerful immortal descends upon Li Jing Village forever, changing the fate of the Li clan. Welcome to Episode 3. Liu Linfeng was still lecturing the crowd, but the unease in Old Man Shu's heart only grew stronger. He watched as the young man suddenly darted forward and threw himself to his knees before Liu Linfeng, sobbing bitterly. My entire family was swept away by war. I alone escaped with my life. After traveling 1,000 li, I finally met 2 honorable lords willing to take us in. I am grateful beyond words. How could I dare commit such shameless acts here? His grief seemed utterly genuine. The refugees behind him were reminded of their own suffering and began to wail as well. In moments, cries filled the air, and even Liu Linfeng could not help but feel moved. Old Man Shu, however, stared at the ankle exposed when the young man knelt. A scar-covered left leg protruded from his torn trouser cuff, and several black moles marked the ankle joint. A crushing sense of familiarity surged through Old Man Shu's mind. His face flushed red as though he were drunk, and he fixed the young man with a wary stare. Behind him, Li Changhu could no longer restrain himself. He looked pityingly at the young man on the ground, stepped forward, and bent down to help him rise. Something exploded inside Old Man Shu's head. His vision went white, and in an instant, he seemed to return to an autumn afternoon more than 20 years ago. Back then, he had still been a tenant farmer of the Yuan family. Golden rice fields rolled beneath the autumn wind. A woman had carried her infant out to the fields, and old Shu had bowed low, offering flattering words to please her. Look at those moles on the child's leg. He is surely destined for great things. Wait! Old Man Shu forced straight the back that had been bent for more than 20 years. He raised his head and roared with furious eyes. Wait! At almost the same moment, another voice cried out from nearby. It came from the middle-aged man chosen to speak for the refugees. He was staring at the young man's face with astonishment and suspicion as he shouted for them to stop. The moment both voices fell, the young man abruptly lifted his head. Li Changhu, caught completely unprepared, met his eyes. They were sharp, savage eyes, the eyes of a wild beast. Li Changhu saw the young man sweep aside the animal hide at his waist, revealing a cold flash of steel. Those ferocious eyes never blinked. They stared straight into Li Changhu's with savage delight. The blade shot toward Li Changhu's throat like lightning. Startled, he managed only a single step backward before raising a hand to block. Too fast. That thrust had been practiced for 22 years. It had pierced countless bundles of straw and carried the hatred of countless sleepless nights. The cold gleam was like a streak of silver lightning, yet it moved with the fluidity of a swimming fish. It slipped past Li Changhu's blocking hand and drove straight into his throat. Li Changhu managed only a few broken sounds before crashing heavily to the ground. His vision blurred, and from somewhere far away came screams and furious roars. "You beast!" Tian Shoushui stood directly behind Li Changhu. Being shorter, he had been completely blocked from view. Only when Li Changhu fell did he realize what had happened. His eyes turned blood red. Veins bulged across his forehead as he lunged for the attacker. Having succeeded with one strike, the young man discarded the dagger. While everyone rushed to support Li Changhu, he rolled across the ground, evaded Tian Shoushui's grasp, sprang into the refugees like a powerful deer. Tian Shoushui charged after him. The refugees scattered like a shattered beehive. He caught only a glimpse of the young man plunging into the reed beds at the edge of the village and vanishing into the distance like smoke. Damn him! Without looking back, Tian Shoushui followed the trail into the reeds, leaving the terrified refugees huddled behind him. That plague-ridden bastard! The crowd erupted. Villagers pinned the middle-aged spokesman against a wall while he wept and cursed. This truly had nothing to do with me. I do not know that young man. He slipped into our group during the journey. Shut your mouth. Liu Linfeng's face was deathly pale. Gritting his teeth, he supported Li Changhu on the ground and shot the middle-aged man a vicious glare, his composure completely shattered. His nephew was coughing blood. There was plainly no saving him. Liu Linfeng's thoughts descended into chaos. How could he explain this to his younger sister? How could he face Li Mutian? His nephew had been murdered before his very eyes. Ren Ping'an sat blankly on the ground. His daughter had only recently married Li Changhu and was already pregnant. Yet Li Changhu, the child Ren Ping had watched grow up, had died just like that. Amid the panic, Li Changhu lay staring at the sky. He felt warm blood spreading across his chest as his awareness slowly faded. I have wronged Xiangping. His wedding celebration will now become a funeral. That was the last thought drifting through Li Changhu's mind. Pain and suffocation finally pulled him into endless darkness. Within the confusion, unseen by everyone, a strand of silver light quietly rose from his dantian. Trailing a glow like a young swallow returning to its nest, it soared into the sky, circled once, and flew toward the rear courtyard of the Li residence. Not far away, Old Man Shu stood trembling, his hunched back rigid. He had watched the blade enter Li Changhu's neck and even seen its tip emerge faintly behind his nape. Blood surged from his chest toward his head. His vision darkened, and he nearly collapsed. What a cursed fate! Tears streamed down his face. In one hand, he still clutched the woven grass cricket he had intended to give Li Changhu. He pressed the other painfully against his chest. "You animal!" Old Man Shu drew a deep breath, wiped the tears from his face, and hurried toward the mountain behind the village, muttering without pause. "This old man has outlived even his wife. I have seen great households destroyed, and I have met more men than the filth a wild wolf like you has ever left behind. Just you wait. You wait right there. This old man is coming for you," iced the Li residents. Inside the ancestral hall, Lu Jiangxian sighed silently. He had awakened when Li Changhu was attacked, but the village entrance was simply too far away. Powerless to intervene, he could only watch everything happen. The silver light fluttered beside the mirror like a butterfly. With a single thought, Lu Jiangxian could dissolve the talisman seed into pure essence and use it to nourish his soul. However, Li Changhu had not yet formed the profound sensory chakra, so the seed offered little benefit. With another sigh, Lu Jiangxian reversed the technique and used the profound pearl self-nurturing art to awaken the lingering consciousness within the talisman seed. Threads of mana were drawn from it, appearing within the courtyard before spreading toward the members of the Li family. Li Mutian had lain awake for more than a double hour, before finally drifting into a troubled sleep. Then moonlight, fluid as water, poured through the windows and around the door. Outside, the courtyard was as bright as day, and his eldest son, Li Changhu, stood silently beside the bed. "What happened?" Li Mutian's voice was hoarse as he questioned his son. Li Changhu pressed his lips together and said nothing. He simply stared at Li Mutian's face, as though trying to engrave every feature into his memory. "Cough, cough!" Li Mutian coughed several times and frowned. "Changhu, what happened?" Li Changhu bent down and bowed deeply before his father. His voice choked with emotion. "Father, take care of yourself." The moment the words left his mouth, Li Changhu's figure scattered like sand in the wind. The watery moonlight slowly dimmed, and the courtyard, once bright as day, sank back into darkness. Overcome with dread, Li Mutian reached out desperately and called after him. "My son, speak to me. Changhu, Li Changhu!" He jolted awake on the bed and stared blankly through the window, the side chamber. "Can cultivators dream as well?" Li Chejing opened his eyes in the side chamber, his face wet with tears. He rose and stepped outside, where Li Tangya sat beside a wooden table. When he saw his younger brother emerge, Li Tangya hurriedly wiped the tears from his own face and forced a smile. "What is it?" Li Chejing stared at him blankly before looking up. "Where is eldest brother? A tenant farmer came for him early this morning. There must have been trouble in the fields." Li Tangya answered with a faint smile. The bedroom door creaked open. Li Mutian stood there, unease written across his face. "Tangya, go bring your eldest brother back." "No, forget it. I will go myself." Li Mutian hurriedly pulled on his shoes and crossed the front courtyard. When he opened the gate, he froze. A great ring of villagers crowded outside, each holding a torch, tears in their eyes. 3 men knelt beneath the stone steps, and beside them lay something covered by a white cloth. The shame and grief on Tian Shoushui's and Ren Ping'an's faces made Li Mutian's dread reach its limit. Trembling, he descended the steps, pushed aside Lu Linfeng when the tearful man tried to support him, and slowly lifted the white cloth. Darkness swept over Li Mutian's vision, and he nearly fainted. The brothers behind him also looked stricken. Li Chejing leaned closer for a look, then dropped heavily to his knees. "Brother!" He threw himself over Li Changhu's body and searched for breath. Then he abruptly raised his head, looked through his tears at the surrounding villagers, and roared in fury. Who did this? Who dared?" The shout was like a tiger's roar. Everyone recoiled several steps, trembling as they stared at him in fear. Among the crowd, Ye Chengfu paused when he saw the savagery on Li Chejing's still youthful face. Raising his torch, he stroked his chin and thought, "The 4th son is no easy creature either. The lead deer is dead, but 3 fierce wolves remain. The eldest is cunning, and the youngest is savage. Within 10 years, everything in Li Jing Village will be decided by the Li family." After several breaths of silence, someone answered in a low voice. "Changhu was killed by one of the refugees." Li Shangping knelt beside Li Changhu, fighting back tears. He turned toward Tian Shoushui and asked through a choked voice, "Uncle Tian, what happened?" "It was most likely a surviving remnant of the Yuan family." Li Mutian ground the words through his teeth. He glanced at Tian Shoushui, who stood with his head lowered in shame, then swept his gaze across the villagers. Li Tangya wiped his tears, stepped forward and cupped his hands to the crowd. "We have troubled everyone tonight. Please return to your homes. There is no need to remain here." Then he bent down to help Lu Linfeng rise and whispered into his ear, "Uncle, please take men to secure the refugees first. Someone may exploit the confusion. We will come shortly." Yes, yes. Kneeling before Li Mutian had left Lu Linfeng terrified, as though needles pressed into his back. Li Tongya's words felt like a pardon. He agreed repeatedly, then led his men away. Tian Shoushui and Ren Ping'an carried Li Changhu into the rear courtyard. Soon, cries came from the main courtyard. Lady Ren had fainted after hearing the news. Tian Yun and Lady Lu held back their own tears. One stayed to care for her while the other hurried to fetch a physician. Elder brother, after lowering Li Changhu's body, Tian Shoushui tried to speak through tear-filled eyes, but Li Mutian raised a hand and answered wearily. Ping'an, go see to Lady Ren. Shoushui, you and Lu Linfeng watch the refugees. Without the Li family's word, I fear he will find it difficult to act. Yes. Tian Shoushui stood stunned for a moment, wiped his tears, and withdrew. Ren Ping'an also nodded numbly, and went to look after Ren Ping'er. Once the outsiders had gone, only the Li family remained in the rear courtyard, weeping openly. At last, Li Mutian could restrain himself no longer. Like a wounded lone wolf, he sat beside his eldest son and howled in grief. Changhu, my Changhu, the brothers began crying as well. Li Tongya and Li Xiangping could still force themselves to endure, but Li Chejing was young and sobbed until he could barely breathe. Ice deep in the third watch of the night, Li Jing Village remained in chaos. Old Man Shu climbed alone toward the mountain behind the village, leaning on his hoe as he followed a winding path. Through the overgrown weeds, rows of graves gradually appeared. He stopped and looked carefully. Sure enough, a young man in ragged clothes, an animal hide wrapped around his waist, sat leisurely beside a small grave in the corner. His legs were spread as he murmured to himself. The young man's ears twitched. He looked up sharply, but when he saw only a kindly old farmer so aged he could barely walk, he even clapped his hands and tilted his head with a smile. Where did you come from, old man? Old Man Shu did not answer. He deliberately moved slowly, shuffling forward with trembling steps. After casting a cautious glance at the young man, he knelt beside the grave, embraced the headstone, and began weeping bitterly. The young man listened carefully. He caught fragments about a great vengeance finally repaid, and the old master resting in peace. His heart stirred. His family had been destroyed when he was young, and he had wandered from place to place. For half his life, he had worked as another man's tenant farmer. Each night, gripping this dagger, he had practiced relentlessly, dreaming of the day he could personally sever Li Mutian's head and offer it to his parents. Now part of that vengeance had finally been achieved. His heart overflowed with satisfaction, and he had 10,000 words he wished to say. Yet no one with whom he could share his joy. Why not talk with this old man for a while, then kill him before leaving? Would that not settle everything perfectly? With this thought, the young man smiled. You come here to cry at the Yuan family graves. Aren't you afraid the Li family will punish you? This old man does not have many years left, Old Man Shu answered while wiping his tears. He glanced at the young man, suddenly paled in shock, and prostrated himself. Young master, The young man started thinking, did this old fool see me at the village entrance? Perhaps I should kill him and leave before he causes trouble. Still covering his face, Old Man Shu continued. The mistress often carried young master out to sit beside the fields. That is how this old man recognized you. I still remember the 3 black moles on your leg. They can prove it. Old Man Shu had lived more than 70 years and had grown as shrewd as an old fox. By twisting cause and consequence so boldly, he startled the young man enough to extinguish his killing intent. The young man stared at him in shock, then hurriedly asked, Do you remember what my mother looked like? Of course I do. Old Man Shu pulled a twig from the dry grass, loosened the earth with his hoe, and carefully began to draw. The young man was deeply excited, though he continued staring down at Old Man Shu with a dark expression. Thoughts flickered constantly through his mind. One moment he wanted to kill the old man. The next he wanted to take him away and learn more about his mother. Before long, Old Man Shu finished and stood. Though only a farmer, he had spent years painting door gods and auspicious pictures for village families. Over time, he had acquired some skill. With only a few strokes, he captured the woman's likeness with startling vitality. Mother! The young man turned, dropped to his knees, and stared. Those brows and eyes were the same faint features that haunted his dreams. He immediately broke down sobbing. 22 years of humiliation and repression surged into his heart, and tears poured like a spring. Old Man Shu sighed beside him, endlessly praising the late mistress. The young man wept even harder. This old man also remembers the master's face. Let me draw him as well. By now, the young man believed him almost completely. He wiped his tears and agreed without lifting his head. Old Man Shu raised the hoe as though to loosen more earth. A vicious light flashed in his eyes. The silver hoe blade glimmered beneath the moon, then suddenly descended toward the young man's neck. The young man had traveled with the refugees all day, exhausted himself assassinating Li Changhu, then struggled through the reed marsh to escape Tian Shoushui. He was already near collapse. After the violent swing from elation to grief, his limbs had gone weak, and he had neither the strength nor awareness to evade. Old Man Shu had farmed all his life, and his body remained sturdy. The blow landed with a dull crack powerful enough to tear tendons and shatter bone. The young man fell face first, his head twisted to one side, eyes rolled white, limbs convulsing as foam gathered at his mouth. While he lay helpless, the old man swung the hoe again, smashing it into his head and ending his breath completely. Still unconvinced, Old Man Shu struck more than 10 additional times in a frenzy, until blood and flesh scattered and red and white matter spread across the ground. Only after turning the body over and confirming there was no breath did he stop. The corpse's face still carried an expression of grief. At last, Old Man Shu's strength abandoned him. He collapsed onto the ground, covered his face with his withered hands, and wailed in anguish. What a cursed fate! What a cursed fate! The previous night, Li Jing Village had remained noisy until deep into the darkness. Yet when the roosters crowed, the villagers rose as usual. The early autumn air was clear and sweet, morning dew glittered in the light, but desolation hung over the village. The Liu and Li families had distributed some dry rations. The refugees crouched at the village entrance to eat while their middle-aged leader looked anxiously at the 20-odd people around him. Now we truly suffer a grievance we cannot explain. Their steward has been killed. Forget staying here, even leaving may be impossible. The refugees suddenly stirred and raised their heads toward the mountain road. Someone is coming! Look at that old man! Along the winding path came a white-haired farmer. Blood stained his clothes and sleeves. With his left hand, he dragged a corpse, while its severed head hung from the hoe carried in his right. It is the assassin! Those with sharp eyes recognized the clothing on the headless body and felt chills crawl down their backs. The assassin had escaped only the previous night, yet by morning his head had already been taken. None knew what sort of man this old farmer was, but the Li family's influence was clearly terrifying. As Old Man Shu approached, people hurriedly retreated on both sides and opened a path. His face, however, was as white as paper. His eyes were vacant and he did not spare the crowd a glance. He simply walked forward in silence. By the time he dragged himself to the Li residence at the far end of the village, a tenant farmer had already carried word ahead. The Li family opened the gate, and an exhausted Li Mutu came out with several servants to meet him. Uncle Shu, what is this? The surviving wretch of the Yuan family. I killed him. The body is here. Summon Liu Linfeng and Tian Shoushui to identify it. Old Man Shu's back remained bent. His limbs were ice cold. He threw down the corpse, collapsed onto the ground, and gasped for breath. Li Tongya hurriedly brought tea from the house and placed it in his hands, but the old man trembled so violently he could not even hold the cup. Li Tongya had to raise it to his lips and let him sip. Before long, Liu Linfeng and Tian Shoushui arrived with Old Man Shu's eldest son. Old Man Shu recounted everything before them. After repeated confirmation, the dead man was indeed the surviving heir of the Yuan family. Uncle Shu, eldest brother's vengeance has been repaid. The Li family is deeply grateful. Li Tongya began, his eyes red. Old Man Shu struggled to wave him silent, tears gathering in his eyes. You need not thank me. I received Huer's kindness, so I killed this man for him. I will never use this favor to seek the Li family's wealth or rank. This old man has few years left. If you truly wish to thank me, wait until that child is born, then bring the baby to visit me. After speaking, he forced himself to rise. Ignoring the Li family's attempts to keep him there, he allowed his eldest son to support him out of the gate. Li Changhu's funeral lasted several days. White mourning cloth hung throughout the residence. In life, he had treated others generously and acted with honor, so cries of grief could be heard from household after household. The endless duties delayed Li Tongya's planned breakthrough again and again. Only 2 months after Li Changhu was buried, did he finally steady his mind, condense the profound sensory chakra, and step through the gate of cultivation. 2 years later, clear morning sunlight fell across the sparse young trees in the courtyard, scattering tiny shadows over the ground. Beneath one of the trees, a handsome youth sat cross-legged, wholly absorbed in breathing and circulating qi. Before long, he exhaled a long breath of turbid air, ended the technique, and smiled toward the courtyard. A little boy of about 2 came running into the rear yard, clutching several wildflowers in his arms. He laughed brightly and babbled. Uncle! Carrie! Li Chejing smiled and gently lifted the child. Pressing his forehead against the boy's small head, he asked affectionately, Was Xuaner obedient today? Want! Carrie! The child ignored the question, giggling and squirming in Li Chejing's arms. Xuaner, come out at once! Lady Ren did not dare enter the rear courtyard. She stood at the gate and called softly. Li Chejing set the child down and watched with a smile as he ran into his mother's arms. This Celestial Whirl Chakra is truly difficult to cultivate. A full year and a half has passed and I am only now about to complete it. Chejing, you truly do not know how fortunate you are. Li Shangping rose behind him and laughed as he scolded. We have only just formed the radiant Lurei chakra of the 2nd level of embryonic breathing. We have not even touched the threshold of the third level Celestial Whirl Chakra, yet you complain that cultivation is too slow and wastes your time. Li Chejing chuckled and ignored him. Tonight I will begin condensing the Celestial Whirl Chakra. Then I will show all of you what it means for mana to circulate without end. You little brat. Li Xiangping laughed heartily. When he saw Li Mutian enter the rear courtyard with his hands behind his back, he lowered his head. Father. Over the past 2 years, Li Mutian had changed greatly. His hair was streaked with gray, deep wrinkles lined his face, and he wore a stern, unsmiling expression throughout the day. He appeared more than 10 years older. That child Xuanxuan is becoming more mischievous by the day. At the sight of his grandson, Li Xuanxuan, a hint of warmth finally appeared on Li Mutian's face. Since Li Changhu's death, the old man had eaten poorly and slept restlessly. The child's birth had breathed new life into him and restored some of his spirit. When Li Xuanxuan was born, Li Mutian had climbed from bed and summoned the entire family. He instructed Li Xiangping to select 3 verses from the reception method to establish the generational naming order of the Li clan. Li Xiangping considered the matter for several days before choosing 3 lines describing the embryonic breathing realm. Profound scenery, deep and clear, the pale moon bears radiance. The celestial world descends through the crimson gate. Fulfilled words reveal azure essence. Jade capital reflects all forms. Only then does nascent spirit appear. The children of Li Tongya and Li Xiangping would take their generational names from the words profound scenery. Sons would bear the character Xuan Profound, while daughters would bear the character Jing Scenery. The later generations would follow the sequence in the same manner. Li Mutian then asked Lady Ren to choose the child's personal name. After thinking through the night, Ren Pinger chose the character Xuan, meaning proclamation. Thus, Li Changhu's son was named Li Xuanxuan. Father simply spoils him too much. Li Tongya smiled and shook his head as he placed the wooden slips in his hand back on the rack. Nonsense! Li Mutian pretended to be angry. His beard bristled as he glared, but then his expression turned serious. I intend to have Yesheng follow me and learn how to handle affairs. Li Yesheng? Li Tongya lowered his head and considered the matter for several breaths. That is a sound choice. Li Yesheng is alone in the world, and he is especially close to our household. We must cultivate our methods and refine spiritual qi, leaving little time for mundane affairs. He also carries Li blood. No one else is more suitable. I only fear that, given enough time, he may develop selfish ambitions and begin filling his own pockets, Li Chejing said with a frown. This old man can live another 10 years. At the very least, I can keep him under control until then. Li Mutian's tone was hard and cold. By the time 10 years have passed, the younger generation will already be grown. It will no longer be his place to entertain disloyal thoughts. To manage people, one must use both favor and authority. Once Li Yesheng marries and establishes a household, everything will be easier to keep in hand, Li Xiangping said calmly. Exactly. Li Chejing took a set of wooden slips from the rack, blew away the dust, and smiled faintly. 10 years of immortal cultivation. That is something worth looking forward to. That night, the moon shone bright and clear. Li Chejing sat cross-legged in the courtyard, gathering his breath and sinking his mind inward as he began to condense the third chakra, the celestial whirl. The human body was profoundly mysterious. It contained 12 principal meridians and 3 dantians upper, middle, and lower. The Supreme Yin Breathing Meridian Nourishment Sutra stated, the lower dantian is the treasury of essence. The middle dantian is the treasury of qi. The upper dantian is the treasury of spirit. Among the 6 chakras of embryonic breathing, the profound scenery, celestial whirl, and jade capital chakras were known as the 3 gates of embryonic breathing. They were exceptionally difficult, because each had to be created from nothing within a different dantian. The other 3 chakras were comparatively easier. Once the profound scenery chakra had formed in the qi-high acupoint of the lower dantian, continued breathing and cultivation would naturally give birth to the radiant Whirl Chakra within the same sea of qi. The Celestial Whirl Chakra, however, rested at the Juk Court, the body's treasury of qi. Once it was formed, mana would circulate continuously throughout the entire body. When infused into the eyes, it allowed one to see across vast distances. When infused into the legs, it granted extraordinary speed and made leaping across roofs and walls a simple matter. Li Chejing adjusted his breathing for a quarter hour. His qi-high acupoint felt full, and 2 spiritual chakras coiled around one another without end. He formed a hand seal and guided qi through the Shimen, Guanyuan, Shenke, and Mingmen acupoints before gathering it at the Juk Court and attempting to condense the spiritual chakra. Lu Zhangxian extended his divine sense to observe Li Chejing. He cast a mind-calming mantra over him while Li Tongya and Li Xiangping stood guard. Just as Li Chejing formed his seals and prepared to break through, Lu Zhangxian suddenly felt as though needles pressed into his back. From far away, he sensed an immense aura rapidly approaching Mount Dali. After comparing their strength, Lu Jiangxian decisively obeyed his instincts. His divine sense withdrew into the mirror like a receding tide. He did not even absorb the moonlight passing through the window. Instead, he lay motionless within the hidden chamber of the ancestral hall, no different from an ordinary bronze mirror. Within a few breaths, a streak of azure light crossed the sky above the Li residence. When the aura continued into the distance, Lu Jiangxian was about to relax only for the streak of light to turn gently around and hover above the estate. Si Yuanbai had just emerged from seclusion on Qingwei Peak, his cultivation having advanced once more. He had intended to travel to Mount Dali and settle matters with the boar demon there, so he stepped onto his flying shuttle and followed Guli Road southward. That great battle severed the spiritual vitality north of Mount Dali and threw the earth veins into chaos. 300 years have passed, and now the land's spiritual currents are slowly recovering. Quite a few demons have begun to gain strength as well. As he approached Mount Dali, Si Yuanbai discovered numerous villages scattered beneath the mountain. They were especially concentrated along both banks of an unnamed river, filled with signs of mortal life. The ancient battle had swept clean the land and slaughtered every demon in the north. By severing its spiritual vitality, it had unexpectedly made the region a safe place for mortals to settle. Si Yuanbai glanced down and suddenly noticed a flicker of mana within a small village below. Curiosity stirred in his heart. At first, he assumed lesser demon was causing trouble. Yet when he focused his spiritual eyes, he saw beneath the moonlight a handsome youth sitting cross-legged. Two similar-looking young men stood nearby, and both seemed to possess mana as well. How unusual. This boy is breaking through a bottleneck, yet no senior cultivator is guarding him. Si Yuanbai swept the village lightly with his spiritual sense. He found no other fluctuations of mana. After a moment of surprise, he clapped his hands and laughed. They must be the illegitimate children left behind by some fellow Taoist. Li Chejing remained completely unaware of the observer above. Instead, sudden insight descended upon him. As he continued his attempts, every large and small doubt regarding the method gradually became clear. Streams of mana gathered rapidly at his juke court, and a crystalline spiritual chakra began to take shape with the ease of something practiced 10,000 times. What an exceptional youth! Si Yuanbai stroked his beard and praised him softly. The path of immortality was perilous and difficult. A spiritual orifice was merely the foundation for entering the Tao. Success also depended on fortune, comprehension, willpower, family background, sect, and cultivation method. This youth possessed both comprehension and talent, and his method was clearly profound. Yet within a mortal village hidden deep in the mountains, how many cultivation resources could he possibly obtain? How many techniques and secret arts could reach him? At best, he might attain chi refining and turn to dust 200 years later. The immortal road stretched endlessly. Countless heroes had broken their spears and vanished beneath the sand. Countless geniuses had died and dragged their clans into ruin with them. Si Yuanbai slowly lowered his flying shuttle. Forming a hand seal, he cast an invisibility art and settled comfortably atop the courtyard's artificial rockery, watching everyone below. A mortal old man entered the yard. One of the youths standing guard called out, "Father." Si Yuanbai's expression immediately became strange. A spiritual orifice appeared in perhaps one person out of 1,000, yet here were 3 in a single household. Could they truly be the sons of that mortal old man? Their mana was rich, pure, and disciplined, proof that they cultivated a profound method. They had to be the secret offspring of some fellow cultivator. Perhaps that cultivator had struggled for years to produce heirs, but dared not bring them home, leaving them in this village to cultivate in hiding. But all 3 children possess spiritual orifices. Their true father's cultivation must be above foundation establishment. The higher a cultivator's realm, the more difficult it became to produce children. Yet the chance of those children being born with spiritual orifices rose sharply. A chi-refining cultivator might have a 10 or 20% chance. After foundation establishment, it could reach half. Since all 3 children possess spiritual orifices, their father was most likely a foundation establishment cultivator. As for the Purple Mansion realm, apart from the old ancestors of the Immortal sects, all of UA would not have enough such figures to fill 2 hands, San. Why would a venerable Purple Mansion cultivator hide in a tiny village? Even if he brought an illegitimate child home, who would dare object? The child would be worshipped like a little ancestor. Below, Li Chejing completed his circulation and opened his eyes with delight. "Father, I broke through!" The Li family naturally erupted in joy. From the artificial mountain, Si Yuanbai watched and thought, the route from Guli Road to Mount Dali is densely populated by mortals. Because of that ancient battle, no cultivator has guarded this area for 300 years. Now that the earth veins are returning to their proper courses, and spiritual vitality is recovering, this region should soon return to the sect's administration. Perhaps I can make these people subordinate cultivators of the sect and have them guard the area. With the prestige of the Foundation establishment senior behind them, they should be enough to suppress the local demons. The Qingchi Sect controlled 5 commanderies in southern Yue and naturally maintained its own governing system. The sect dispatched disciples only as far down as the cities. Beneath that level, it relied on the tangled bloodlines and marriage alliances of cultivation clans to control the countryside. Through pills and artifacts, the sect compelled those clans to grow spiritual materials and supply large numbers of low-level cultivators. Each year, it accepted the most talented descendants into its own ranks. This method was recognized throughout the cultivation world, and Qingchi Sect had employed it for more than 500 years since its founding. It would also allow me to form a favorable connection with that Foundation establishment senior. With this thought, Si Yuanbai formed a seal, revealed himself, and gently descended into the courtyard. Li Chejing was still rejoicing in the endless circulation of mana produced by his Celestial Whirl Chakra, when a figure in azure robes appeared from empty air in the middle of the yard. The man seemed 30 or 40 years old. He was handsome and refined, with a mild smile. A treasured sword hung at his waist, shimmering with light and giving him an otherworldly bearing. Li Chejing and the others reacted as though facing some mortal enemy. They immediately shielded Li Mutian behind them. Li Tongya shouted in a deep voice, "Who are you?" As the immortal-like man slowly appeared, bitterness filled Li Xiangping's mouth. Damn it, could the owner of the mirror have finally come for it? Fear and unease seized him. The stranger seemed profoundly mysterious and utterly unfathomable. He glanced at Li Chejing and Li Tongya. Though both maintained calm expressions, panic showed clearly in their eyes. They were evidently thinking the same thing. "I am the master of Qingwei Peak in the Qingchi Sect." Si Yuanbai smiled. Seeing how guarded the Li family remained unlike ordinary mortals, who would already have fallen to their knees, only strengthened his assumptions. There is no need for such tension. Guli Road lies under the jurisdiction of Qingchi Sect. Since you have entered the immortal path, you naturally fall under the sect's governance as well. When they realized he had not come for the Dharma mirror, Li Tongya and the others relaxed slightly. Much of their hostility faded. Li Tongya cupped his hands respectfully. "We are merely ignorant villagers of the wilderness. By fortune, we managed to attain the profound sinner chakra. We did not know your honored sect was such a great power, and have failed to show the proper respect to its envoy." Si Yuanbai paused, then immediately understood. Guli Road had gone unmanaged for centuries. These villagers did not even know the name of Qingchi Sect. He formed a seal, and a lifelike image of the kingdom of Yeo appeared before everyone. The display stunned the Li family. Li Chejing and the others had learned to call forth mana, yet even shaping it into crude forms remained difficult. The fine control required to construct a map was far beyond them. This is the kingdom of Yue. At Si Yuanbai's thought, the southern region of the map turned azure, covering roughly 1/4 of the kingdom. This is the territory of Qingchi Sect. So it is the Qingchi Immortal Sect. Li Mutian Kaptan Tizan. In my youth, this old man followed General Yang in campaigns against the Mountain Yu tribes. The talismans issued to our army must have come from Qingchi Immortal Sect. I would never dare accept the title of Immortal Sect. Si Yuanbai waved his hands repeatedly, then addressed Li Xiangping and the others. Since you have entered the profound sanary stage, the villages surrounding Guli Road will be placed under your administration. You need only remember to deliver the resources demanded by the sect each year. There are several other cultivation clans along Guli Road. Your family's foundation remains shallow, so endure where you can and avoid unnecessary conflict. Every 5 years, the sect will send someone down the mountain to recruit disciples. If your clan produces an exceptional talent, it will be a great blessing for the family. Li Tongya's expression shifted slightly. What resources does the sect require? Once every 5 years, 10 white origin fruits and 200 jin of spirit rice. Si Yuanbai's face turned stern. These resources must never fall short. It is best if your family has a disciple within the sect. Otherwise, deductions and penalties will be difficult to avoid. By the time he spoke so plainly, Li Tongya could hardly fail to understand his meaning. The family exchanged glances while Li Mutian thought. This man appeared neither sooner nor later, but precisely when Chejing broke through. 8 or 9 chances out of 10, he wants Chejing to join Qingchi Sect. That may be for the best. Chejing's talent is exceptional. Keeping him buried in these remote mountains would waste it. He might as well enter the Immortal Sect and spread his wings. Then the family will have support both within and without. Li Mutian nodded subtly toward Li Chejing. Understanding his father's expression, Li Chejing stepped forward and bowed deeply to Si Yuanbai. Chejing's talent is dull, yet I deeply admire the Peak Master's bearing. I beg to enter your gate, even if only as a child who sweeps the grounds and listens to immortal instruction. Not bad, you suit my Qinghui peak. Si Yuanbai accepted without hesitation and nodded with a smile. He tapped the pouch at his waist, and two bundles, one large and one small, appeared on the ground. Seeing the family's astonishment, he explained. This is a storage pouch. Once you form the Jade Capital Chakra, you will be able to use one. The larger bundle contains spirit rice seed. The smaller contains seeds of the white origin fruit. Turning his left hand, Si Yuanbai produced several sets of wooden slips. There is no need for you to become a sweeping boy. Since you have entered my gate, you should know your master's name. My surname is Si, my given name Yuanbai. I am the lord of a peak within Qingchi Sect, so naturally I will not mistreat you. These 3 cultivation methods come from unaffiliated cultivators of Yao. Your family may study them for reference. The remaining volume explains how to cultivate spirit rice and white origin fruit. You must examine it carefully. The Li family answered quietly in acknowledgement. Si Yuanbai smiled. There is no need to remain so tense. What method do you cultivate? Li Changping and the others instantly became guarded again. They exchanged several looks, yet no one spoke. Seeing their hesitation, Si Yuanbai suddenly understood and waved his hands. I understand. That senior must have forbidden you from speaking of it. Si Yuanbai had only entered Foundation Establishment the previous year, so he naturally regarded the supposed Foundation Establishment cultivator from 10 years earlier as his senior. Li Mutian coughed and stepped out from behind his sons. More than 10 years ago, this old man rescued a senior cultivator. He remained in our home for several years while recovering from his wounds. Before leaving, he passed down this method and ordered us never to reveal it. Then he departed without a trace. Exactly. Si Yuanbai nodded lightly, pleased by his own clever deduction. It is probably no more than a chakra-nourishing method. Could it truly be some immortal art that refines supreme yin moonlight or absorbs solar essence? There is no need to press them and damage my relationship with this new disciple. He looked at the old man with a trace of pity, turned his hand, and produced a pale azure jade seal. When he brushed its surface, golden light slowly emerged, forming 4 large characters. Under Qingchi jurisdiction, Si Yuanbai addressed the family. This is proof that you belong to Qingchi Sect. I have placed my seal upon it. You may use it to define your borders with neighboring clans, and you may also call upon the sect for aid. Guard it carefully. With a slight lift of his left hand, the jade seal floated into Li Tangya's grasp. Once Li Tangya stored it safely, Si Yuanbai turned toward Li Chejing. Good disciple, bid farewell to your family. Li Chejing's eyes reddened. He embraced both older brothers, then kowtowed several times before Li Mutian. This unfilial son will no longer be able to remain at your side and serve you. Father, mother, please take care of your health. Li Mutian coughed and hurriedly helped him rise. Your brothers will handle the affairs at home. Do not worry about us. Cultivate diligently within the sect and become a pillar the Li family can rely upon. After bowing farewell to his brothers, Li Chejing reluctantly returned to Si Yuanbai's side. Master, this disciple has said farewell to his family. Si Yuanbai nodded repeatedly. Paying little attention to Li Tangya and the others bowing behind him, he laughed aloud and muttered, I gained a fine disciple today. I will spare that bored demon its life. He drew Li Chejing close, waved a hand, and summoned a flying shuttle. With another seal, the shuttle expanded several times over. The two stepped aboard and shot northward like a falling star. Only after Si Yuanbai vanished beyond the horizon did Li Changping rise and take the wooden slips from the table. He loosened the cloth binding and opened the first set. Azure Origin Chakra Nourishment Method, 1st grade. He skimmed through it. The text described a method for cultivating the Embryonic Breathing Realm. As he read with a frown, Li Tangya gave a soft sound of surprise. This breathing method requires only daily circulation. There is no need to refine moonlight. Naturally, it cannot compare with the Dharma Mirror family's method. Li Xiangping nearly mentioned the mirror, but fearing that Si Yuanbai might turn back, he changed his words midway. Is Si Yuanbai truly a peak master of Qingchi Sect? Letting Chejing leave with him so suddenly feels careless. Li Tangya gave a bitter smile. What other choice did we have? If he were a wicked cultivator, he could simply have seized Chejing. Why waste time speaking with us and leave behind methods and proof of authority? Li Changping nodded and opened the second set of slips. Heavenly Origin Qi Refining Art. A 2nd grade method for cultivating the Qi Refining Realm. Li Tangya picked up another set and read its title aloud. Secret Records of Xianxia. After several lines, delight appeared on his face. This record contains a great deal of basic cultivation knowledge, the distribution of powers throughout Xianxia Commandery, and the markets where unaffiliated cultivators trade. It is exactly what we urgently need. Li Xiangping accepted the slips and read while answering thoughtfully. So cultivation methods are divided into 9 grades, with 1st grade the weakest and 9th grade the finest. Spells, pills, and artifacts are classified according to cultivation realms. I wonder what grade our family's method belongs to. While his younger brother immersed himself in the records, Li Changhu took the pale azure jade seal left by Si Yuanbai and quietly infused it with mana. Under Qingchi jurisdiction, the golden characters appeared above the seal, then slowly faded. In their place came a bright white character Li and a small map: Li Jing Village, Li Chuan Pass, Jingyang Village, and Li Dao Pass. Li Mutian narrowed his eyes and identified the names one by one. These were the 4 settlements between Guli Road and the foot of Mount Dali that Si Yuanbai had mentioned. With Qingchi Sect behind us and sufficient strength of our own, the Li family no longer needs to hide. We can openly build our power. These villages belong to the Li family. Li Xiangping suddenly raised his head from the book. His expression was perfectly calm. Beginning tomorrow night. Early the next morning, Chen Erniu awoke to find the Li family's tenant farmers moving through the village like darting fish, going from door to door to summon people. Auntie Li, tell your husband to come behind the village after he finishes in the fields tonight. Uncle Tian has something important to discuss. Ah, all right, Brother Liu, the Li family requests your presence. The village soon erupted into noise, with chickens flying and dogs barking while everyone wondered what was happening. When dusk finally arrived, Chen Erniu ate quickly and hurried behind the village. The Li household was one of the 2 largest in Li Jing Village, and its influence was considerable. Looking around, Chen Erniu saw that every notable and minor household had sent someone. Even Xu Wenshan, the middle-aged leader of the refugees who had arrived several years earlier, stood respectfully behind Li Xiangping. Damn it, I came too late. Chen Erniu cursed under his breath. Xu Wenshan had since become a Li tenant farmer. He spoke pleasantly, understood how to deal with people, and kept more than 10 refugee households united around him. Without anyone saying it aloud, he had begun replacing Chen Erniu as the leader of the tenants, a fact that made Chen Erniu grind his teeth whenever he looked at him. Li Mutian was nowhere to be seen. Instead, Li Xiangping stepped forward and smiled. Thank you all for coming. Today I have good news to share. Once the crowd fell silent and listened, he continued. Last night, an immortal of Qingchi Immortal Sect passed through this region. He saw that my younger brother, Li Chejing, possessed exceptional talent and accepted him as a disciple, taking him to the Immortal Mountain to study immortal arts. The declaration struck the gathering like a boulder dropped into a still lake. Everyone stared at one another, then looked blankly at Li Xiangping as though listening to a folktale. Congratulations. It was teacher Han Wenshu who sighed and offered the first loud blessing. Han Wenshu had come from the city and possessed broad knowledge. The moment Li Xiangping named Qingchi Immortal Sect, he knew the claim was almost certainly true. Chejing must have possessed a spiritual orifice and been taken away by a cultivator of Qingchi Sect. Each person has his own destined fortune. Han Wenshu sighed softly, then spoke in support of Li Xiangping. For Chejing to enter an immortal sect is a blessing for the entire village. Han Wenshu had lived in the village for more than 20 years, healing the sick and teaching the young. He had long been one of its most respected figures. His words gave Li Xiangping's announcement credibility. Though most villagers still whispered among themselves, Li Xiangping remained calm. A jade seal appeared in his hand. When he infused it with mana, 4 golden characters shone above it. Under Qingchi jurisdiction, an immortal. At the sight of such a miraculous display, the crowd erupted. Many villagers dropped to their knees and repeatedly kowtowed, shouting in excitement. Chen Erniu also stared in shock and uncertainty. After the white character Li appeared above the seal, Li Xiangping withdrew his mana and raised his voice. The immortal also bestowed cultivation arts upon us, and ordered the Li family to guard Li Jing Village, Li Chuan Pass, Jingyang Village, and Li Dao Pass. He closed his palms slightly. Brilliant golden light gathered in his hand. With a flick of his wrist, it screamed through the air and vanished into the forested mountains. A thunderous explosion followed, startling flocks of birds into flight. The golden light art drove the people below to their knees in a wave. Even Lu Linfeng, head of the Lu family, trembled as he knelt and stared at Li Xiangping in a daze. There is no need for this, we are all neighbors and kin. Xiangping does not dare accept such reverence. Yet as he spoke, Li Xiangping remained standing without moving, looking down upon the prostrate crowd. Chen Erniu pressed his forehead tightly to the ground. His heart was filled with shock and confusion, and only one thought remained in his mind. The heavens are about to change. Ice Li Changhu slowly walked out of Li Chuan Pass. Behind him, Li Yesheng held cloth in one hand and a charcoal stick in the other, recording information in uneven writing. Li Chuan Pass suffered terribly in the drought more than 20 years ago and still has not recovered. Barely 100 households remain. It is pitiful. Li Changhu spoke while walking, turning his head toward Li Yesheng. Brother, we have already removed the powerful households of Li Chuan Pass and divided their land equally. The villagers no longer pay rent and a 10% land tax is very light. Li Changhu answered respectfully. He put away the charcoal stick, passed it to a villager following behind, then bowed and continued in a low voice. We will still need to send someone to administer the place. But among the main and collateral branches of the Li family, there truly is no one literate and capable enough for the position. There is no need to worry. Li Changhu waved a hand. Under Li Cheng's admiring gaze, he formed a seal and cast the garment purification art, sweeping the dust from his robes. Father and Xiangping will arrange everything. Li Jing Village has 229 households. Lichuan Pass has 101. Jingyang Village has 297. Lidao Pass has 158. Altogether, that is 785 households and 4,280 people. Li Tongya and the others sat in order within the Li family's main courtyard. Li Changhu stood in the lowest position and read aloud from the charcoal writing on the cloth. 4,280 people. Even if each household has only 3 able-bodied youths, there should still be 1 or 2 people among them with spiritual orifices. Li Xiangping leaned against the wooden table and spoke softly. Last night, several elders of the Ye clan came to see me. They hope to restore their ancestral surname. Li Changhu looked toward those seated above and smiled bitterly. Their ancestral surname? Li Tongya raised his head in confusion. Seeing that both brothers failed to understand, Li Mutian coughed and explained. The ancestors of the Yi clan were originally a branch of our Li family. Later, they committed an offense. The entire branch was expelled and forced to change its surname to Yi. Neither family mentioned the matter afterward. Now that our Li family has obtained immortal fortune, the Yi clan naturally wishes to attach itself to us and reclaim its ancestral surname. Li Changhu nodded. He had only learned of this old secret the previous night, when an elder of the Yi clan came weeping and recounting the past. The elder's eyes had filled with tears, and he had cried miserably. Had the Li family not just gained immortal fortune, Li Changhu might have believed that the old man was truly devoted to the main household. If any branch of the Yi family produces someone with a spiritual orifice, allow that branch to restore the surname Li and become a collateral branch of our clan. After hearing Li Mutian's explanation, Li Xiangping gave Li Cheng his answer and instructed him to report it to the elder. Then he turned back toward Li Mutian. Father, regarding the administrators of these villages, Chen Erniu is clever and quick-witted, and he originally fled here from Lichuan Pass. Send him back to govern it. Jingyang Village has the largest population and is the wealthiest, so we must place someone trustworthy there. Let your Uncle Zhan oversee it. Li Mutian took a slow sip of tea before continuing. Lidao Pass lies close to Guli Road. It has many refugees, and its situation is the most complicated. Xu Wenshan is a shrewd man. Let him take his refugee brothers and manage it. Father has considered everything carefully. Li Xiangping nodded and opened the manual on cultivating spiritual plants. The most urgent task is to use the spirit-seeking art in this volume to examine the earth veins of the 4 villages. Locate their spiritual fields and plant the spirit rice and white origin fruit as soon as possible. Li Chejing stood aboard the flying shuttle and looked down at the vast land below. Houses appeared no larger than ants, and even mighty cities vanished into the distance. His sorrow at leaving home was immediately cast aside, replaced by overwhelming excitement. A true man should ride the wind, embrace the moon, and carry his sword across the world. After flying for more than 2 double hours, an immense mountain range appeared before him. Pavilions, towers, and halls stretched endlessly among the peaks, forming the unmistakable sight of an immortal domain. Flocks of immortal cranes and white birds wheeled between the mountains. Ahead, Si Yuanbai opened his eyes from meditation, waved his hand, and sent out a command token before waiting in silence. So Uncle Master Yuanbai has returned. A white crane slowly stopped before Li Chejing caught the token in its beak and spoke curiously. Who is this boy? It was Li Chejing's first time seeing an immortal beast capable of speech. He became so nervous that he could not answer. Si Yuanbai laughed. A new disciple of my King Wei Peak. Congratulations, Uncle Master. The immortal crane offered its blessing, then gently beat its wings. A gap gradually opened in a nearly transparent curtain of light before them. Only then did Li Chejing notice the enormous, almost invisible barrier covering the entire mountain gate of Qingchi Sect and separating the spiritual qi within from the outside world. The moment they entered the sect, comfort spread through Li Chejing's entire body. The spiritual qi is so dense. Seeing his astonishment, Si Yuanbai smiled. This is Qingchi Sect's heavenly origin unified spirit formation. It is profoundly wondrous. By sealing the inside from the outside, it allows Qingchi Sect alone to enjoy the spiritual veins of Mount Qingchi. With the formation's power, so long as a foundation establishment cultivator presides over it, even a purple mansion cultivator would struggle to break through. Truly wondrous. Li Chejing echoed the praise, though inwardly he thought, I wonder whether this formation can be learned. Perhaps I could place one around the mountain behind our home. Si Yuanbai mistook Li Chejing's distant expression for awe and continued. There are 100 arts of immortal cultivation formations, alchemy, artifact refinement, talismans, beast taming, vein surveying, and many others. Each is profound beyond measure. It is best to choose one and study it deeply. Master, which of the 100 arts do you cultivate? Li Chejing asked curiously. Among Qingchi's 36 peaks, Qingwei Peak has always been famous for its sword arts. Si Yuanbai raised his head proudly. Ah, so that is how it is. Li Chejing nodded in sudden understanding and glanced at the treasured sword hanging from Si Yuanbai's waist. Therefore, your master cultivates the path of talismans. Seeing Li Chejing freeze, Si Yuanbai continued with slight embarrassment. Your grandmaster died too early. Before I could properly learn the immortal sword path, Qingwei Peak found itself desperately short of resources. I had no choice but to study talismans first. Somehow the more I studied them, the more proficient I became. I see. Li Chejing nodded repeatedly, making it clear that he understood. First, I will take you to meet several of your senior brothers and sisters. Si Yuanbai led Li Chejing winding through the mountains until they reached the comparatively low Qingwei Peak. As soon as they landed at the summit, a man and a woman approached. You are the 7th disciple under my instruction. This is your 3rd senior brother, Xiao Yuanxi, who is at the 7th level of Qi refining. That is your 4th senior sister Yuan Tuan, who is at the 3rd level of Qi refining. Li Chejing respectfully bowed to them both. Xiao Yuanxi had thick brows and bright eyes. With an open and carefree bearing, he presented Li Chejing with a jade slip. This is a sword art I happened to obtain during my travels. I give it to junior brother as a meeting gift. Yuan Tuan also smiled and offered him a jade pendant. This pendant can calm the spirit, steady the mind, and assist with entering meditation. It is useful in the embryonic breathing realm, so I give it to junior brother as well. Li Jing naturally thanked them one by one, then asked, curiously, are the other senior brothers and sisters in seclusion? Si Yuanbai chuckled softly and replied,